The first time they looked away, you felt it in your bones. A familiar shift, eyes sliding past you, voice flattening into a tone you never heard at home. They didn't reject you because you were flawed. They rejected you because you refused to play their game. That moment, when the room contracted and you realized power had slipped through your fingers, is the hinge on which everything turns. You felt naked without their applause, a ghost drifting where you once stood solid. You remember holding your breath, waiting for the apology that never came. Silence grew between you like ice, and in that silence you saw the truth. Nobody owes you redemption, not your partner, not your friend, not the world that taught you to beg for scraps of respect. The deepest cut isn't the betrayal itself, but the realization that you handed them the knife. There's a paradox here. When you stop begging for approval, you become radioactive. They circle you, drawn and repelled at once. They whisper behind your back, "He's changed. She's cold." But their words tremble with envy, because you no longer tilt your head, waiting for their verdict. You own your gravity, and that terrifies those who built castles on your self-doubt. This isn't a pep talk. It's a reckoning. You've collected wounds like talismans, each one a lesson in restraint. If you have to explain your worth, you have already lost. If you chase after peace, you're still in their territory. True sovereignty lives beyond apology, beyond explanation. It lives in the shadow you cast the moment you stand unmoved. Stay with this moment. Lean into your scars. Every betrayal is a blueprint for your next elevation. Because when you vanish from their expectations, you rise to a realm of uncharted strength. You become the predator of your own narrative, not its prey. If this raw truth resonates, leave a comment below and subscribe to claim the next cut of clarity. They circled your doubt like vultures. You felt it in the way their gaze found your weakness before you even gave it shape. You thought silence would hide your fracture, but silence broadcasts your soul's cracks to anyone willing to listen. In that pause, power seeped out of you, a slow drip you didn't notice until the well ran dry. They learned to manipulate the spaces between your words, to wedge lies into the pauses you left unguarded. You clenched your jaw, convinced that endurance alone would heal the wound. But endurance is gilded submission. When you endure without reaction, they mistake you for broken clay, something to press and reshape at their whim. They test you with small cruelties, laughter that snaps your spine straight, compliments that masquerade as barbs. Each barb lands precisely because you forgot to erect a frame of indifference. Watch closely. They praise you when you crave it, then punish you when you lean into their light. They call it balance, but it's a trap. Your desire to be liked becomes the lever they tug to tilt you off center. They feed on your need to explain, your frantic clarifications, your trembling apologies. They didn't apologize because they were sorry. They apologized because you didn't react. And in that reaction, you surrendered the position you never knew you held. Imagine a mirror that only shows what it wants you to see. You stare into that mirror, begging for your reflection to smile back. But it smiles only when you dance. The moment you step off rhythm, the glass goes dark. Their approval is a currency with no value beyond the ledger they keep in their heads. You traded your self-worth for their coins, and now you're bankrupt. There's a tactic they never teach you in school. Your absence speaks louder than your presence. When you withdraw from their game, they scramble into lighting the stage for you again, desperation disguised as concern. "Are you okay?" they ask, hands outstretched. They don't care. They care about the applause you stopped giving. They want the narrative back under their control. This is Machiavelli's whisper in your ear. Never hand the script to your adversary. If they write your lines, you become the actor, and they the playwright. They set your motivations, direct your emotions, prune your reactions. Every time you justify yourself, you hand them the pen. You may think your explanations are armor, but they're nothing more than an invitation to another round of attack. Feel the weight of that realization. Your silence is not a haven, it is a cell unless you shape it. Silence, wielded with intention, becomes your fortress. Every unspoken word is a brick laid in your castle walls. When they provoke you, you build a battlement. They throw stones. You stack them to rise above. They hurl doubts. You anchor your certainty. In the theater of power, your performance is irrelevant. What matters is the effect you leave behind. When you stop playing by their script, you become an enigma they can't decode. They whisper in corridors. What does he want? Why won't she answer? Their questions echo in empty rooms. And in that echo you find dominion. Your first lesson in this cold arena: know when to vanish, not as a plea for attention, but as a statement of autonomy. Vanish from the expectation of reaction. Vanish from the hunger for validation. Vanish from the trap of proving your value. And watch them scramble, bewildered by the emptiness you leave behind. They tested your calm like a diver tapping thin ice, waiting for the crack. You may believe you're breathing steady, but your heartbeat speaks the truth they crave, your fear of chaos. They know if they push hard enough, you'll unravel. So they orchestrate small storms, an offhand remark, a strategic delay, a smile edged with menace. Each disturbance feels trivial until the cumulative weight drags you under. Notice how they frame every conflict as you're failing. When you counterstrike, they point and say, "See? There it is again." They redefine your boundaries as transgressions, then punish you for defending them. They rewrite reality so that your self-preservation reads as aggression. In their ledger, you owe them allegiance for every moment of grace they pretend to bestow. The cruelest deception: they promise resolution when you concede. You back away, hoping the battlefield will shrink. Instead, they advance. Your regard for peace becomes your depletion. Their power grows in the vacuum you leave behind. You learn too late that surrender is merely an invitation to a larger war they never announce. Remember this: every apology you offer is a door they will walk through again. They don't accept remorse. They collect it. Each "I'm sorry" is a trophy on their wall, proof that you bend. They admire the curve of your spine under their weight. They admire your submission because it confirms their dominion. Watch their faces when you refuse to bend. Confusion flits across their eyes, as though they've lost a familiar landmark. They scramble for new tactics, charm, flattery, outrage, anything to redraw the lines. But you stay still, a monolith in a shifting storm. Your refusal to react becomes a mirror, reflecting their desperation. They'll try a final gambit, feigned innocence. "Why won't you talk to me?" They'll feign hurt. Their voice will tremble with the performance of someone wronged. But beneath the tremor lies calculation. You cannot comfort a liar. You can only expose them. Silence is your scalpel. Each second you withhold your pity cuts deeper than any word. Feel the magnetic pull of indifference. It isn't cruelty, it's sovereignty. As they flail for your engagement, your detachment becomes their torment. They realize they lost control the moment you ceased to be their audience. They crave an answer that will never come. Their questions float in air, ungrounded, powerless. Here's the line they cannot cross: your self-possession. They will bait you with illusions of familiarity, inside jokes that mask insults, shared memories that house subtle betrayals. They reach through nostalgia, hoping to catch you off guard. But you've learned to inspect every gift for the blade hidden inside. Every laugh must pass your filter before it touches you. You see, they think alliance is a bond you forge with words. You know alliance is an architecture you build with silence. Walls, corridors, chambers, uncharted domains of you that they cannot map. They walk those halls in the dark, bumping into shadows, ignorant of the fortress they failed to breach. This second art of war is lethal in its simplicity. Refuse their coordinates. Don't meet them where they stand. Don't play their game. When they lunge, step aside. Let their momentum carry them past the target. Their aggression becomes their own undoing. Their energy dissipates in empty air. You won't feel grand standing there. There's no triumph in a missed blow. But trust this: power often lives in the absence of spectacle. The world will notice only the gap where you once flinched. They'll fill it with rumors, questions, theories, but they will never replace you. So cultivate your void. Hone the space between words until it resonates. Learn the art of non-response. It's not indifference to your own life. It's devotion to your inner command. Every moment you choose not to engage, you train yourself to stand unmoved. When the real battle arrives, they will return, of course. Adversaries never surrender their favorite opponent. They'll escalate next time threats. Alliances forged in shadows. Public condemnations dressed as honest concern. But you're already there, waiting in silence, fortified by every refusal you've made so far. Let them come. Watch their strategies unfold like puppets dancing on frayed strings. Your only move is to sever the tether. Silence, when wielded with precision, becomes the sharpest weapon at your disposal. They slipped questions into your quiet like needles into skin, each one calibrated to draw blood. What happened? Why did you leave? Don't you care? They assume you're a broken vessel, desperate for answers. But you learn to treat their inquiries as projectiles. Walls don't bleed. You don't owe explanations for your absence. Your absence is its own declaration. They chase the sound of your voice through empty rooms. Their footsteps echo in corridors where you once responded. And in that echo, they sense opportunity. They press on locked doors, convinced you'll turn the key one more time. But the lock clicks only when you let it. You memorize the angle of resistance, the sweet moment before the bolt holds fast. When they can't find you, they invent you. They write their own version of your motives and broadcast it to the world. They call you distant, aloof, unreachable. They say you vanished because you have nothing left to offer. Others believe them, because society loves a tidy narrative. But the truth is fragmentary, uncomfortable, and best left uncollected. Notice how they brand your discipline as arrogance. You cultivate boundaries, and they label you proud. You insist on your autonomy, and they brand you unruly. They fear what they can't name, so they poison others with half-truths. And the crowd is their echo chamber, amplifying lies until you appear monstrous. But monsters have agency. They walk through fire without flinching. They burn expectations to ash and stand unscarred. You become that monster not by embracing cruelty, but by refusing to be tamed. You forsake their ledger of credits and deficits. Your worth measures itself in silence and in the void you carve. They'll try to reclaim you with spectacle, a public apology, a grand gesture, a contrived confession on social media. The world feels compelled to watch, curious for closure. But closure is your betrayal. You don't gift them the ending they script. You slip away again, rewriting the epilogue in your own hand, with no audience to applaud. Imagine the fear tangled in their throats as they realize the show has no finale. They scramble for a climax, but you refuse to appear on stage. They create hashtags, start rumors, even orchestrate allies to corner you in public. Yet you slip through crowds like smoke, unseen until the moment you resurface on your terms, at your time. In this silence, you forge your next identity, not the one they engraved in gossip, but the one you craft in solitude. Each unspoken thought becomes a brick, each deliberate omission a mortar. You reject narrative entirely, and in that rejection, You build your true self. They hate that. They loathe the emptiness you wield, because emptiness is contagious. When they stare into the void, they see their own hollow conviction. They tremble at the thought that power may exist beyond their scripts, beyond their applause, beyond their reach. You revise your alliances accordingly. You don't gather followers. You cultivate distance. Your circle tightens not through loyalty, but through your unavailability. They stand at a remove, wondering if they're next to be cut loose. And in their unease, you taste freedom. They measure loyalty by proximity. You measure it by respect. Proximity can be purchased with convenience. Respect demands cost. They balk at the price you set, so they circle at a safe distance, shouting for your attention. Their desperation fuels your calm. Sooner or later, someone speaks the unspoken truth. He's not here to please us. They murmur it with disbelief, as though you'd stripped the world of gravity. But in that disbelief lies your victory. You become the anomaly they can't decode, the equation with no solution. Feel the power in that undetermined state. When no formula applies, they abandon hope of control. They retreat to familiar games, where rules exist and you must play. But you stay in the void. You remain undefined, untethered, unapproachable. You are the question with no answer, ineffable, impenetrable, sovereign. And here's the hidden advantage. In the absence of definition, you determine your own form. You refashion yourself constantly, slipping into new contours before they can grasp your shape. Their memory of you corrodes. They chase ghosts, and with each futile pursuit, their belief in their own power erodes. You've outsmarted them, not with tricks, but with elimination. You eliminate the spaces where they could strike. You eliminate the scripts they could control. You eliminate the currency of approval. What remains is you raw, unrefined, untouched. They learned to exploit your predictability, your patterns, your routines, your eagerness to close every loop. So you shattered them. You rose at odd hours, spoke in riddles, disappeared without notice. Each rupture in their expectation became a proof of your sovereignty. They scanned their calendars looking for you, only to find blank spaces where your name once stood. You feel their disquiet when they check their phone and find no reply. That itch in their palm is the echo of their lost leverage. They realized too late that you weren't just a contact. They were reliant on your presence to sustain their narrative of control. You rewrote the code. Control doesn't come from engagement, but from strategic withdrawal. Notice how they scramble to replace your silence with noise. They post quotes on social media, begin cryptic conversations with mutual friends, stage public displays of concern. Each move carries desperation like a flare shot into empty skies. They hope the world will answer their signal and bring you back into orbit. But you drift beyond the boundaries they set, a comet leaving their system for realms they can't chart. In those freezing gaps, you cultivate self-mastery. While they chase echoes, you train your attention inward. Every moment they slip into madness is another moment you spend sharpening your edge. You read books they won't understand, practice rituals they dismiss as a cult, forge a discipline they mistake for coldness. Their mockery only fuels your momentum. At the heart of their offense lies one fatal assumption: that absence equals weakness. They believe a silent phone line is a plea for attention. They don't comprehend silence as an act of power. You watch them rebuild your absence into a tower of speculation higher, more elaborate than any fortress they could erect in your presence. Let them guess. Let them fear. Let them believe you're anywhere but here. They scramble for allies to validate their version of you. They pull friends into whispers. Text chains become tribunals. You sit outside the courtroom, unindicted, unobserved. Their verdicts bounce off your walls. No counsel can accuse you here. Your silence is plea and proof. They can't convict a man who refuses to stand trial. Every time you sidestep their ambush, you reinforce a spectacle of invincibility. They speak your name in hushed tones, as though invoking you will summon a curse. They post questions like, "Is he okay?" on feeds, each tag a marker of their panic. You've learned that concern is a lever they use to pry open your resolve. So you never confirm, you never deny, you remain the subject of their conjecture. And in that conjecture you reign. There's a precision to this game that most never grasp. It's not chaos you sow, but calibrated absence. You don't vanish and leave nothing. You vanish and leave the opportunity for everything. They project fantasies into the vacuum, the worst-case scenarios, the imagined betrayals, the invented tragedies. They become prisoners of their own minds, shackled by their fear of your return. This fifth tactic isn't flashy. There's no dramatic showdown. There's no explosive confrontation. It's the slow pulling back of air until they suffocate on their own need. It's the unglamorous precision of withholding the removal of consent, the retraction of your time, the redirection of their focus away from you. In your silence, they construct hells. They anxiously negotiate with themselves. If I post this, will he answer? If I call, will she pick up? Each calculation tightens the noose of their desperation. Meanwhile, you exist beyond their arithmetic. Their numbers, messages, likes, mentions carry no weight in your balance. You traded their metrics for something no algorithm can measure: autonomy. As you watch their maneuvers, remember this: presence obligatoire is a myth. Presence is a gift you grant, not a right they claim. Every interaction is a transaction. If they cannot meet your terms of respect, of space, of undisturbed focus, they forfeit access. There are no refunds, no do-overs. The price you demand is absolute indifference. Let this seep into your bones. You are not defined by the void you create, but by the edges you carve around yourself. Boundaries, not bridges. Walls, not windows. The world will rage against your silence, threaten, plead, manipulate, but your purpose is not their negotiation. Your purpose is your own sovereignty, etched in every silent moment you command. Their final move will be to conjure the specter of regret. They'll invent deliverance in your absence. He must be punished by fate, they'll whisper. But fate bows to discipline. Your absence is not fate, it is choice. And choice is the currency of the unshakable. They thought they'd broken you when the world's noise drowned your voice. But in that vacuum, you discovered another truth. Power doesn't roar. It resonates in reverberations only you can hear. You listen to the echo of your own heartbeat, mapping its rhythm as a ledger of your dominion. They panic when they realize you no longer conform to their decibels. They launch distractions, fleeting crises, counterfeit emergencies, viral scandals to pull you back into the fray. Each new headline, each fresh gust of outrage, is a siren meant to lure you off balance. But you've learned to track intention, not content. You ignore the clamor and follow the faint undertow of motive. Who benefits when you react? When the answer is always them, you bury your response beneath layers of deliberate calm. Observe how they brand your unwillingness to engage as disdain. Their words drip with accusation. She thinks she's above us. He's too good for our mess. But disdain is their projection, not your truth. You neither elevate nor degrade. You simply refuse the transaction. You do not enter their arena. And so they reframe your neutrality as contempt. They twist every silence into an indictment. You're part of the problem, but you are the solution they fear. In every stifled urge to defend yourself, they see an opportunity. Your restraint is not compliance. It is the highest form of rebellion. It tells them, your rules don't apply here. Your dilemmas are irrelevant to someone who doesn't answer to them. They'll escalate next: guilt, obligation, shaming. They'll summon every weapon from their arsenal. If you loved me, you'd respond, after all I've done. But their debts are illusions. Reciprocity is your choice, not their entitlement. They mistake love for currency, forgetting that the richest reserves are never theirs to claim. Feel the weight of that freedom. You are ungoverned by their ledger of credits. When they tally kindnesses like trophies, you remember each act of indifference is a declaration of independence. When they shout that you owe them closure, you realize closure lives within, beyond any handshake or apology. Here comes their desperate apex, a grand gesture, public and unscripted, a confession masquerading as confession, a confession they hope will shatter your calm. But you see through it. Every word they choose is drafted in advance, every tear measured for maximum effect. Their spectacle is theater. You will not applaud. Instead, you step further into the void, deepening the space between display and substance. Your absence becomes a living thing, growing its own ecosystem of uncertainty. They wander in its corridors, haunted by the unknown. They reach for your phantom hand and grasp nothing but cold air. This is no longer just defense, it is offense. By refusing the arena, you invert the battlefield. They chase shadows while you sift reality. Their strategies are laid bare. Your silence unmasks them. They had thrived in entropy, in the confusion they sowed. Now they stand naked in daylight, their deceptions exposed by your unwavering stillness. You may feel the pressure build, the world expects you to reappear, but you remain unshaken. You understand that endurance without reaction is a form of sovereignty. Every moment you withhold your attention, you accumulate authority. They fight for scraps of your engagement, while you feast on the liberty of non-participation. Notice how alliances crack. Those once loyal to you begin to question your loyalty to them. They demand explanations, concessions, evidence of your continued allegiance. But alliances built on convenience collapse in the face of your absence. Only those willing to respect your terms, space, boundaries, autonomy persist. Others fade like echoes against stone. In the crucible of their desperation, you forge your ultimate shape. You become the enigma they can't solve, the presence they can't command. You transcend the roles they assign: the friend, the lover, the ally, and exist beyond labels. Your identity is unbound, dynamic, self-determined. They'll whisper your name with reverence and fear. They'll quote your silence in hushed conversations. That's how you do it. That's how you win. But they'll never replicate it, because silence stripped of intention is hollow. What you wield is not absence alone, but intentional absence, choice distilled into action. As they flail in your wake, remember this final edge. Presence is never passive. It's a force field you project when you choose not to appear. Every withdrawal is a beacon that guides your energy back to yourself. Every withheld word is a flame that ignites your inner command. By mastering absence, you master influence. You rewire the psychology of those who thought they controlled you. You prove that the most potent dominion lies not in what you do, but in what you refuse. And in that refusal, you become unshakable. You've watched every trap unfold and found your way through the void they constructed. Now you stand on the far side of their designs, free of expectation and beyond reproach. There is no redemption in their words, no sanctuary in their apologies. Only the clarity of your own absence remain. In this final turn, understand that true power doesn't arrive with thunderous declarations. It arrives in the unspoken space you claim for yourself. They will tell stories about you, half-truths, spun into legends of cruelty or conquest. Let them. Their narratives cling to the familiar, but you have become something unfamiliar, something unbound. The world aches for your return, for the moments when you once bent to its will. But you won't return as you were. You'll return only on your terms, if at all. Turn off the stage lights and step into your own darkness. There is no applause here, no final act to play. Only the echo of your choice, resonating long after they've forgotten what they chased. Embrace that echo. It is your manifesto, your monument. If you felt this cut deepen your resolve, leave a remark before you disappear. Subscribe for the next fracture in their illusions.